There was once a young man named Kai who lived in the quiet village of Orin. Nestled between hills of green and rivers of silver. He was not born a warrior. Nor was he the son of a noble or a merchant. He was a dreamer, fascinated by the stars and obsessed with a single vision. He wanted to build something that would change the world. But what that something was, he did not know yet. Kai's father, a humble fisherman, often shook his head and said, "The world is moved by strong backs, not wandering minds." But Kai's mother would whisper when no one watched, "The mind is like a sword, if sharpened by pain. It will cut through mountains." And so, with nothing but a sketchbook, a bag of tools, and a fire in his chest, Kai left his village at the age of 18 to find his purpose. Kai's first idea came while staring at a wheelbarrow. "What if I could create a cart that moves by itself?" he thought. So he began building. For days he worked in the open fields, hammering, wiring, shaping, but when the day of testing came, his creation tumbled over and shattered into pieces. The villagers who had come to watch laughed and shook their heads. One man even said, "Stick to fishing, boy." But Kai didn't curse them. He wrote in his notebook, "Failure number 1, the weight wasn't balanced." Then he tried again, and failed. Failure number 2, the axle broke. Failure number 3, the wheels jammed. Failure number 4, it caught fire. He went on like this, each time learning, adjusting, improving. By the time he was 20, he had failed 37 times. His hands were covered in calluses. His eyes had seen more defeat than most men twice his age. And yet, he smiled. For with every failure, he was sharpening his sword. By the time Kai hit his 50th failure, the whispers became louder. "You're wasting your life. No one will ever use your machines. Your time would be better spent raising a family." Even his mother, the only one who ever believed in him, began to cry at night. But Kai didn't quit. Instead, he began working at night, by candlelight. In silence, when sleep called, he replied, "Not yet." When hunger gnawed at his ribs, he said, "Later." He reminded himself of an old saying from the monks of the East. "The bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists." Bend, endure, and rise. Kai's 75th invention looked promising. It was a sleek, light machine meant to carry loads across great distances without a horse. He presented it to a traveling merchant who agreed to test it. It moved, it turned, it crossed half the village, and then collapsed into smoke and splinters. The merchant roared with laughter. "Boy, do you enjoy the taste of dirt? You've eaten it enough times." The shame was heavier than any burden Kai had ever known. That night, he sat beside the river and threw his notebook into the water. He wanted to disappear, but just as he stood to leave, an old monk approached him, as if drawn by the scent of a broken soul. The monk sat and said nothing. After a while, he spoke. "Why do you cry over stones that make your path?" Kai said bitterly, "I have failed 75 times. The world is laughing. I'm done." The monk smiled softly. "Then your success must be very near. The mountain always breaks its climbers before revealing the view. But those who do not break, rise." Then the monk rose and disappeared into the woods. And just like that, Kai dove into the river to retrieve his notebook. By the time he was 23, Kai had failed 99 times. Every invention had cracked, crumbled, or collapsed. But with each one, he had grown, smarter, faster, calmer. He no longer feared failure. It had become his teacher, his ally. Then came invention number 100, a wind-powered cart, built from everything he had learned over the past 5 years. This time, it moved. This time, it turned. This time, it flew across the valley faster than any horse. The villagers gathered in awe. The same people who had once laughed now stood in stunned silence. Even the merchant returned, not with insults but with a contract. Kai looked up at the sky, tears in his eyes. So this is what the 100th failure was hiding, he whispered. By 25, Kai's creations had spread across villages, kingdoms, and continents. His name was etched into books. His machines reshaped trade, and his philosophy, fail forward, became a mantra for thousands. He returned to Orin, where his father now boasted proudly, and his mother smiled with peace. But Kai, ever humble, taught young dreamers the truth that few want to hear. Success is not hidden behind talent. It is buried beneath failure. He told them, Fail 100 times. Fall 100 times. Bleed. Cry. Scream if you must, but get up. Because the world does not reward the one who never fails. It rewards the one who never stays down. Young dreamer. If you are between 18 and 25, know this. You do not lack talent. You lack the scars that shape greatness. You do not lack intelligence. You lack the grit forged in failure. You do not need approval, you need persistence. You see, success is not a doorway. It is a wall, and you must hit that wall 100 times before it breaks. Each failure is not a dead end. It is a chisel chipping away at that wall. Every crack is progress. So fail. Fail boldly. Fail with purpose. Let the world laugh now, and bow later. You are not falling behind. You are building forward. If this story touched your heart, if it awakened the fire in your soul, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. Comment below your greatest failure and how you will rise again. Like and share this with someone who needs to hear this message. Your journey has just begun. Let's fail forward together.